Welcome to the Specialist Trading Weekly Forex Review for the week ending October 1st, 2010. Now in today's Forex Review, what we're going to be covering is a strategy number one, trade in progress. Now if you recall last week we spoke about this trade in progress. We told you how we actually entered into this trade. That was part one of our series. Now we're going to continue the series with part two starting this week, and we're going to show you how the trade has unfolded so far. Here's a current chart of the dollar yen. This is where the trade took place, and this is up until today on the 1st, and showing you how you could have taken advantage, if we look back in hindsight, of getting short right here up at these levels on the dollar yen using strategy number one. So we'll show you all the details. We'll show you where we are in the trade and where we plan to exit, and where we have our stop placement and where we entered last week. But before we do, we want to remind you that we are having a current promotion with Global Futures. They're a very reputable firm, and they've been my broker. We want you to go and speak to Michelle Jimenez. Call her directly at 818-670-7733 if you're thinking about changing brokers, or if you're new to Forex trading, you want to trade Forex for the first time. We highly recommend seeing the people at Global Futures. They're running a current promotion now where if you open a fund and fund a new account, you'll receive 20 free contracts. So please go over there, speak to Michelle, and tell them that Specialist Trading sent you. Okay, before we begin, as always, we ask that you take a moment to view our disclaimer. I'm going to show you the performance results from this trade in the dollar yen, but remember, we can in no way guarantee that any of the results we're about to show you will be repeated in the future. So please take a moment to view our disclaimer, and then we shall begin this week's Forex review. Okay. Now let's start from the beginning. Let's backtrack what we did in part one and show you how we actually saw the setup for this particular trade. Remember, we're using strategy number one. That's where we employ the Donchian channels. If you're not familiar with the setting we use for the Donchian channels, simply go to the video learning section where all our learning videos are, and look at the video entitled Settings and Indicators, and you'll be able to see exactly how to set up. Very simple process, very simple change in how to set up the Donchian channels. Okay. Now the first thing we always ask ourselves is, where is price in relation to the buy-sell line? Now going back here, looking back in September, we see that price with the down red arrow, price was below the buy-sell line. This is our buy-sell line right here, the 50-period simple moving average. So once we know that price is below, this means we can only look to short whatever we're trading. And it doesn't matter what time frame. This could be a 5-minute chart, a weekly chart, a monthly chart. If we're below the buy-sell line, we're only going to be looking to go short. If we're above the buy-sell line, we're only going to be looking to go long. Okay, so obviously price is below, so we're looking for a good shorting setup here in the dollar yen. But we haven't found that yet. We haven't found our setup yet, so we continue to watch. And as we see here, we get this real nice rally to the upside while the Donchian channels are still headed lower, as signified by the down red arrows. So this is still telling us that we have some type of short-term downtrend in place, even though we're just about touching that buy-sell line. Excuse me. We're still in a downtrend, so this means that we can only look to go short. All right, so if we follow on a bar-by-bar basis, we see that the next day we have our first setup bar. This is our setup bar to go short. Now, this is based off of the rules for strategy number one. You're always going to need a setup bar. This is the bar prior to entry. Now, once again, if you're not familiar with the rules to strategy number one, or what encompasses a setup bar with that particular strategy, go to the video learning section. We just don't want you to come to our weekly videos. We want you to go to the video learning section where all the rules to all the strategies are, and all the different techniques and the process behind all these strategies. And you can learn exactly how to find and what a setup bar is. So circled in blue here, this is our setup bar. Okay. So what does this mean? Well, we're not short yet. We're not getting short, but this means if we trade right where that green horizontal line is, that means we can go short. All right, so we have to trade there on the very next bar. Well, we see the very next bar, we never got that low, so there was no trade. We didn't enter the trade, and we haven't done anything yet. But guess what? This new bar now is our setup bar. Okay, we have it circled in blue now. So now this meets all the qualifications. So now we have a higher setup bar. So this is even better. This means if we want to go short, and if everything is triggered, we'll be able to go short at a higher price. So we want to see price descend on the very next daily bar and hit that green horizontal line. That will have us trigger the trade, and we will enter there to go short. Well, lo and behold, in the very next daily bar, the dollar yen traded down to that level, 85.56. So this is where we entered the initial trade. Okay, remember, this is all based off of our rules, all based off the buy-sell line, the Donchian channels, and the rules for a setup are all, contributing to make us get into the trade. If you're not familiar, go to the video learning section. Everything's explained really simply and really easily there. All right, so we entered at 85.56. So let's look back and see, that was going back what we covered in part one. Well, on the 20th of September, using strategy number 1, daily bars, we went short at 85.56. Now, currently, the dollar yen is at 83.29. So we have 227 pips already on paper in our direction. So let's show you how that unfolded. Okay, this is where the current chart is, taken up to today, the 1st of October. This is where the dollar yen. We're still in the trade. We have not exited yet. So this is still a short trade. We have a really nice paper, but it's we have a really nice profit, but it's only on paper at this point. All right, so this is where we entered. We've placed the Donchian channels now. You see they're all headed lower, and we see prices lower. This was just some type of a bounce in a downtrend. But according to our rules, our proprietary setup, we got short at 85.56, just at the very top of that little bounce. All right, so once we got short, what do we want to do? Well, we want to protect ourselves. We place our stop just above the highs, okay? So this is where our stop is, anywhere from 1 to 10 pips above the high of that little rally or little bounce. Now, we have a very nice profit right now on paper because, as we see, the trend has continued lower. So we have a real nice profit hand. We want to protect that. Now, right now we have our stop at the very highs. We've been trading long enough to know that nothing is secure, nothing is 100% guaranteed. So price could turn around, especially in the foreign currencies, and we could turn around and get stopped out with a loss on this trade. Even with the number of pips we have on paper, a profit, this could just turn around next week and go all the way back up, and we get stopped out for a loss. So we want to kind of protect some of our profit here that we have. Meaning, if things do turn around and we never exit and get out of the trade fully, we want to be stopped out with at least a little bit of money in the bank. Now let's look back at hindsight. As we see here, circled in red, we had some nice bounces, and they both times they bounced and then went lower. Okay, this may happen again, as I said, but we may not get stopped out, but we may come up to a certain level and then go lower. If we notice where we have these two circled red spots, right here and right here, both times price was headed lower in the dollar yen, then we bounced. We bounced just a little bit above the midline. As you see here, price went above the midline and then retraced. And this time, price went above the midline and retraced. So it's safe to say that, many times price will come above the midline and then it'll go back down. But how far will it go above? I mean, would we place a stop, or would we think it would only go up this high or maybe this high? So a good rule of thumb is to place your stop halfway between the buy-sell line and the midline. So that would be somewhere around right here, and in this particular, midline would be somewhere around here. So the distance from here to here, roughly, you just put a stop in at midpoint. Because if we reach that, most likely it's going to be headed higher. So now let's use that same type of process with where we are currently. So what it would mean is that the distance from the midline to the buy-sell line, half would be right here. So what we're suggesting, if you're in this trade, if you're following along with us, we would place our stop at 84.73. Okay, right now we're at 83.28, so we've got a long way to go to get back up there. But remember, we've seen that anything and everything can happen, especially in the foreign currency. So you always want to protect yourself. You never know. We could have a huge day like this happen next week. And just in case that did happen, we would be stopped out. But at least we would have anywhere from a 70 to an 80 pip gain in our favor, even by being stopped at these levels. So we're hoping that if we do have a bounce, it'll come up to this midline, maybe up to these levels, and then turn over and go back lower. If that does happen, here's where our exit point is. We always exit at the low point of the Donchian channels. Excuse me. But remember, the Donchian channels is not a static indicator. It's dynamic, meaning that it changes either up or down with price action. So we always suggest enter daily orders when using the strategy number 1 and the Donchian channels as your exit point, because that bottom line can go upwards the next day, it can go downwards. We never know. So always be careful, and remember to follow the rules in their entirety by simply going to the video learning section, and you'll see how strategy number one process unfolds. All right, so let's recap now. We're still in this trade in the dollar yen using strategy number one, and we're looking at it on a daily basis, daily bars. The trade is in progress. What we're suggesting, if you follow us along with this trade, move your stop above the midline. Okay, so there's a distance from the midline to the buy-sell line. Halfway in between that is where your stop should be. Okay, as always, learn these strategies before trading. We are glad that you come to these weekly recaps and follow along and learn the process, but it's not enough. You need to go to the video learning section, watch the videos, pick a strategy that works for you. We have a number of strategies you can use, and then feel comfortable trading it. But before you trade it, paper trade it. Now, I know a number of students have emailed me. They said they love the way this trade is unfolded, and they're paper trading it. That's fine. That's fine. Go ahead and paper trade it. There's a number of things you can learn in the process while you're seeing it unfold in real time, as opposed to coming to these weekly videos and just seeing a static chart. Okay? Our edge here is consistency. We're not going to tell you that every trade works as well as this one has. There are some losers, there are some winners, but we want to see this nice consistency in your trading. That's what we're trying to instill in you. We're not going for the home runs, we're going for a series of singles, okay? If you have any questions concerning what I went over today or anything on the website in the video learning section, please do not hesitate to email me at stephenprimo@specialisttrading.com. Lastly, in closing, we ask that you take one last look at our disclaimer. I showed you the performance results from this trade in the dollar yen, but remember, we can in no way guarantee that any of the results I showed you will be repeated in the future. So as you're taking one last look, remember, feel free to email me, go to the video learning section, and have a great weekend. We'll see you next week. Bye-bye.